Давайте ответим сами себе на очень простые вопросы. Я сейчас хочу вернуться к тому, что сказал. Хочу обратиться и ко всем гражданам страны, не только к тем коллегам, которые в зале находятся, ко всем гражданам России. Разве мы хотим, чтобы у нас здесь, в нашей стране, в России, вместо мамы и папы был родитель номер 1, номер 2, номер 3? Совсем спятили уже. Разве мы хотим, чтобы в наших школах с начальных классов детям навязывали извращения, которые ведут к деградации и вымиранию? Чтобы им вдалбливали, что кроме женщины и мужчины якобы существуют еще некие гендеры, и предлагали сделать операцию по смене пола. Разве мы все этого хотим для своей страны и для своих детей? Для нас все это неприемлемо. У нас другое, свое будущее. Повторю, диктатура западных элит направлена против всех обществ, в том числе и народов самих западных стран. Это вызов всем. Такое полное отрицание человека, ниспровержение веры и традиционных ценностей, подавление свободы приобретает черты религии наоборот, откровенного сатанизма. В Нагорной проповеди Иисус Христос, обличая лжепророков, говорит: «По плодам их узнаете их». И эти ядовитые плоды уже очевидны людям. Не только в нашей стране, во всех странах, в том числе для многих людей и в самом Западе.
Hello. I'm here to talk to you about three things. The first two are very important, the third not so much. The first thing is the situation in Europe, which I know a lot about it. Second one is a situation about Ukraine and the war, which has not been a war yet, but I'll explain. The third one are the videos on our channel, which is not important, not for now. So, let me start to explain some things to you. Europe. Europe has been rich, wealthy continent for mainly two reasons. There's a before and an after, and then a before and an after. Europe has become, one of the superpowers of the world first, hundreds of years ago, by invading and exploring other countries, mainly Africa. Got Portugal, got Spain, got Italy, got Belgium, got Germany. Europe became very wealthy because they invaded countries mainly in Africa, also Brazil, South and Central America, and stealing these countries' resources, gold, diamonds, eventually oil, and on and on and on. That's how Europe became a wealthy region, by robbing other other countries' resources. That was stage one. Otherwise, if Europe had not, invaded these countries and robbed their resources, Europe would be as poor as any other third world country. But because they used their military and then political and economical pressures and power, Europe became a very wealthy region of the world. That was the first step. And then, towards the mid-end of the 20th century, little by little, all these African countries, mainly African countries, regained their independence. And Europe suddenly saw itself without those resources. So Europe had a big problem in their hand. Like, oh, now how can we get, these diamonds and gold and gas and oil and all these things if we don't control these African countries anymore? That's a problem. So what did Europe do? Turn to Russia. Russia is the country in the world with more natural resources in the entire world. And Europe find out a way to, well, we can invade Russia, but we can get advantage of their cheap oil and gas and other kinds of resources. And that saved Europe. Because once Europe lost control over those African countries in the late 20th century, Europe was in a big problem. But they found a way to keep their standard of living, economical living, by getting cheap energy sources from Russia. And so Europe kept on living the good life. Without cheap Russian oil and gas, Europe would go back to the Dark Ages. It's happening now. It's happening now. Now they don't have access to cheap oil and gas from Russia. You see, Europe is a lie. The idea we have of Europe, like the workers are the more competent, industry are the more innovative, more modern. That's a lie. There are competent people everywhere in the world, but the economical side of Europe was always supported by other countries, either being African countries, by stealing their resources, or by taking advantage of the Russian cheap gas and oil. Europe itself has nothing. Nothing. It has intelligent people. Those exist everywhere in the world. Europe's wealth, power, and economical status was always based on places that have nothing to do with Europe. It was in Africa, then it became Russia. Now that there's no gas and oil flowing from Russia to Germany and Italy and everywhere, Europe is going to collapse unless something is done, unless they do something about it. But they're under the American NATO fist, so it's going to be very hard because Europe depends on what America tells them to do. So I see very hard times ahead for Europe. Probably the collapse of the European Union, because in a house where there's no bread, people are gonna start fighting each other for food. And right now, that's what's happening in Europe. It's starting to collapse. So that's the situation in Europe right now. The future, I see the end of the European Union, no doubt. Unless they turn again to the cheap Russian gas and walk away from America's sources. What they're going to do, I don't know, but I see very hard days for Europe in the near future. Probably the collapse. At least the collapse of the European Union. Maybe even more than that. And I mean war. Yes, I mean war. Anyway, so that's the situation in Europe.
Well, the Air Force has the best brains in the country working on it. General Nate Twining, the Air Force Chief of Staff, says that if there are saucers from Mars or Jupiter or some far-off planet, And if there is a people and a world that far ahead of us, he doesn't believe we even have to worry about it.
But a then secret memorandum by the same general suggested that the highest military echelons thought there was plenty to worry about. The memo states, quote, "The phenomenon reported is something real and not visionary or fictitious."
Air Force Chief of Staff says that if there are saucers from Mars or Jupiter or Jupiter or Jupiter or Jupiter or Jupiter or Jupiter or if there are saucers from Mars or Jupiter or.
Now let's talk about the war in Ukraine. Well, there has not been a war yet. No. What you have seen since late February happening in Ukraine, it's not a war. It's at most, a guerrilla war. And I'm in a good position to talk to you about it because I'm in the middle of it. In case you don't know, I live in Ukraine. Okay, so I don't depend on YouTube to know what's going on. I'm in the middle of it. I don't depend on the internet or YouTube or whomever, people in America or in China or in Australia, to know what's going on, because you there, you're in some studio or in your apartment talking about things that you read somewhere else, and then you come up with your own version, and then you spill it out. I'm here, surrounded by missile attacks and all that stuff. So I know better. Now, what's happening right now in Ukraine? Number one, there has not been a war in Ukraine. At most, a guerrilla war. Are you a military person? I am. And I was in the special forces for many years. This is not the kind of fancy tattoo you do with those machines. Go like this. No. This was done with a pen. One hole at a time. Bleeding a lot. This means something. Not those fancy bullshit. So I know what I'm talking about. Mind you, this was 35 years ago. But it was not the end of my military participation in the world. No. We'll talk about that another time. How I spent so many years in the special forces in different countries: Belgium, Portugal, Italy, Canada. And then how I started my own business in Bolzano, in Torino, Italy. Then I sold my business in the early 2000s and made a lot of money with that, amongst other things. Anyway, so about Ukraine. There was no war. The last 6 months, the media called a war. There's no war. There has been just, like the Russians told, a special military operation, and that's it. Very small amount of people, small amount of resources, and yet with those small amount of resources and people that Russia put into this special military operation, they got almost 25% of the Ukrainian territory right now, almost like 23% or something. But the war has not started. But it will soon. I have friends who are literally, because of my life, the special forces and then my business, who are generals right now, active in the Ukrainian army. Also friends in the Russian army and other places. American army, Japanese even, and many other places. The war hasn't started, but it will start in about a week. Say October 10. Keep this date in mind, October 10. If everything, war changes almost by the minute. But if my sources are right, and I am one of the sources, October 10, so in a week, things are going to change big. Because what you're going to see is a tsunami. A tsunami. Until now, you only saw a little storm, a small storm between Ukraine and Russia. One day, Ukraine gains, a couple of villages. The next day, Russia gains another couple of villages or a town. It's been very, very small. Very small. That's why the Russians said it was a special military operation, not a war. But the war now is coming. Yes, the war is coming. It's going to be a tsunami. Because now the Kherson, Lugansk, Donetsk, now the Russian territory. So now we're not in a small time military operation. Now it's going to be war. I'm going to tell you something. Maybe you know, maybe you don't know, probably you don't. For the last 3 weeks, there has been at least minimum 50 trains per day and night coming from Russia to these territories. Kherson, Lugansk, Donetsk. Every day, 50 trains, some carrying 50 tanks, all kinds of missile defense systems every day. 50 trains per day coming from Russia to these areas in Ukraine. They have not been used. It's just coming every day. Some of these trains are like 2 kilometers long, with all kinds of arsenal, military arsenal. So imagine 50 trains a day for the past 3 weeks. What's not in place right now? Plus, I'm sure you heard about the 300,000 new Russian troops that are coming, and half of them are already in Ukraine, just waiting. The war is going to start now. Till now, it's just guerrilla war, And even just with the guerrilla war, Russia already gained almost a quarter of the Ukrainian territory, and that will not go back. There's tactical wins, which is gaining a village here and there. Then there's strategic wins and strategic plans. A strategic plan is like you're watching a movie on TV. There's the beginning, start, introduce the characters, a little bit of the plot. Then there's the middle, where everything happens, Then there's the ending. A 2-hour-long movie. That's a strategic war. Then there's tactical. Tactical is these 20-second or 30-second or 1-minute clips within that movie. A 2-hour long movie, that's the strategic. The tactical, that those clips you see, of the movie, means nothing. One day you win a town, the next day you lose a town. Those are tactical wins and losses. Happens everywhere in any war. It's not important. What's important is a strategic. What started and how it's gonna end. That's a strategic. Tactical losses and wins, things that happen all along. And what's coming, my friends? What's coming? It's beyond your imagining. Because soon, maybe in a week, October 10, give or take few hours, what's happening in Ukraine is going to change completely. It's going to be a war. And so, what's going to happen is that the Russians are going to go over, take Nikolaev, Odessa, and after Kharkov, and maybe the Belarusia is going to come down for Belarus and take over western of Ukraine, Lviv. Why? Because once these new territories that are now Russian, that's going to happen in a few hours or tomorrow, and then, like NATO, Article 5 of NATO. If a country attacks one country belonging to NATO, all countries of NATO will get together and fight that invading country. Same thing with Russia. They have that same system. It's not called NATO, but the same system. If you attack Russia or one of the countries which belongs to this military alliance, then everybody of these countries have to defend Russia. And so, today or tomorrow, all these countries, these new territories in Ukraine, Kherson, Lugansk, Donetsk, will be part of Russia. So, one bomb, one shot, one bullet towards these territories, you get all these countries which belong to this Russian military alliance have to come and defend Russia. That means Belarus. And if it happens according to what's planned, well, Ukraine shot one bullet against a part of these new Russian territories, and Belarus will come down in Western Europe, Western Ukraine, and take over Lviv, for example. We'll see what happens. But it'll go according to these lines. Nevertheless, the tsunami is coming. Remember? 50 trains every day for the last 3 weeks with weapons you have no idea. Way more advanced and powerful that had been used until now in this conflict, this special military operation. Way more. It's gonna be a tsunami from Russians to Ukraine. A tsunami. Can't even imagine. So far it's been a joke. Russians call it the special military operation. I call it a joke. It's been pretty much let's go little by little. It's going to be that hard. We'll lose this town, or that village, but the progress has been constant. With tactical defeats, which is we lose a small town here, small town there, village. Tactical, not strategic. Strategic is the big. That has never changed. and it will not change. In the end, it's going to be Nikolaev, Odessa, Kharkov, and then all the way to the Polish border. No, Russia is not going to invade Poland, but they will take all the way to the Russian border. I mean, to the Polish border. Oh yes, there will be no Ukraine. But Ukraine is not a country. It's a fantasy country, you know. It's like what you do at home. You have a bunch of pieces of Lego. You pick up Lego, you create this Lego, whatever you house, whatever you want to do, but it's not real. It's pieces of Lego created by your own imagination. Same thing with Ukraine. And the strategic, that will not change. That will be the way it is. Now, number 3. Videos. Yeah, I'm sorry. I promised you, the next episode 1 of the Henry Race's book, 2nd edition. It's on the works. I don't know, maybe 40-50% done, but right now, as you can imagine, I have more important things to do. I will show it to you, and it's going to be very, very good. The whole series, the 2nd edition of the Henry Race's book, each episode will be very interesting, because if you remember the Alien Race's book, 1st edition, was pretty much was a book. You have a photo of an alien race and then a description. This is going to be completely different. Each video will show 1 or 2 races, but it's not going to be like the 1st edition, just a description. No. It's going to be historical facts, evidence, connections. It's going to be very interesting. You just have to wait, because as you can imagine, I'm a bit busy, but will come. So I'm sorry that I promised you for a few months, but it has not happened. That's because I'm busy with other things. So be strong, believe, and in the end, everything will be okay. And if it's not okay, well, then you don't have to worry about paying taxes next year. But everything will be okay. Believe. Cheers. Have a great week.